Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make a delicious from-scratch chicken dinner to impress your family. Select a fresh whole chicken and make sure that there's at least half a pound of meat per person. Pay attention to whether it has the giblets. If it does, you can use them to make a giblet gravy. If it doesn't, we can change that up. Fresh green beans makes for a delicious side that's very simple to prepare. Small potatoes or fingerling potatoes make for a leveled up starch. There's no need to make your stuffing from scratch, but we're skipping the jarred gravy this time. If your family imbibes, a witty white or fruity wine pairs well with this meal. I highly recommend a roasting pan with a rack and a lid for this chicken. However, if you do not have that, just something with metal bottom, metal top, and something to raise it up like a rack. We're going to check our chicken to make sure it's in good shape and not slimy. You can rinse it if you'd like, but you don't necessarily need to. Here we're checking inside. We're going to stick our hand in the cavity. You will feel liquid. We're checking to see if there's any giblets, which are the organs and neck. There's none in my chicken this time, so I'm going to dump all of that liquid into my sink and rinse it out. And I'm going to position my bird on the rack. I leave all my bags like that so it's easy to clean up afterward. Position your bird breast down and slightly splay out those wings so they can get a little bit more crisp. Fresh or dried sage is going to give your bird the best flavor. It has kind of that Thanksgiving dinner feel to it, and it pairs very well with this bird, but we're not going to just lay it on top. We're going to be stuffing it into the cavity. We'll smash it up a little bit first to release some of those oils and tuck it right into the cavity to kind of give it a little bit of a aromatherapy treatment. I'm also adding some rosemary. Don't worry, my hands are clean. I washed them in between takes. Going to add a little bit of rosemary and then some plain salt and pepper. And that's all that I'm going to be doing to this bird. You can also do garlic if you like, but try to keep it simple, at least for your first time. Make sure to rinse off those potatoes. Now, I'm doing a large amount because I have 6 kids. I am not new to this game. So I'm doing a lot of potatoes, but you should probably do whatever fits the amount of people that you're feeding. If it's just your in-laws and your new husband or something, then you're definitely going to want to cut this amount in half at least, unless you want a lot of extra for later. I'll be doing some salt and pepper on these potatoes, and that's going to crisp up the skins really nicely. You don't need to add any extra oil to them to get crispy skins because that salt dehydrates it a bit and makes it just the perfect crispy skins. Now I will be covering this for the first half hour of cooking. After that it will be uncovered, but we're going to cover it to get all those juices trapped in there. I'm putting it in the oven at about 375. Now you can expect this to take a couple hours to finish cooking. In the meantime, let's work on some green beans. We're going to rinse them and make sure to pull all of these little stems off because they're really unpleasant to accidentally bite down into a stem. So just check them, see if there's anything that's brown or not so great, and get rid of those. Stovetop stuffing mix is just seasoned breadcrumbs, and don't let anybody tell you anything different. So we're going to go ahead and use some seasoned breadcrumbs, and we're going to doctor it up. We're going to add chopped carrot, celery, and green onion in there. And if you want to risk it and put some raisins or craisins, go for it. Not everyone likes them, but it'll really impress everyone if you have your own special flavor. We're going to add a bunch of butter. Now, check your box for directions. Again, big family, so lots of butter for me. About half an hour has gone by, so I'm going to take this lid off away from myself so I don't steam myself in the face. And see, it's not cooked yet all the way, but it's gotten some of those juices dripping down. Now we're gonna leave it open, still at about 375, and let it crisp up. Many people have a tea kettle now, so put it to good use. Boil the water that you need for your stuffing mix, and then just pour it over. We're gonna give it a quick stir and add a lid. And that's all you need to do. If you want to keep this warm, you can set it in the oven, but it's quite simple. If you don't have a steamer basket for your green beans, put about an inch of water at the bottom of a small pot, then toss your green beans in. We're basically just going to lightly boil them for a few minutes, about 4 minutes or so, and then we're going to blanch them by cooling them off. Get your cold water running. If you can do an ice bath, it's even better, but I'm just going to use some cold water. I'm going to put my hot green beans in there and cool them off just a bit so that they can stay nice and bright green. If you don't cool them a little bit, they become mushy and they get a little bit of a grayish color, but we want them to stay as green as possible. We're not going to cool them all the way down because we don't want cold green beans. I'm going to set them back in the pot with some spices and some butter. Now, if you've got bacon bits, toss those in because nothing makes green beans extra like a little bit of bacon. My pan is still just a little bit warm, as you can see from the steam, so I'm just going to use that residual warmth and add a little bit of butter, salt, and pepper. Give it a quick stir and put the lid on while I'm finishing up. You want to do this pretty close to dinner so that they don't get mushy while they're waiting. It's been a couple hours and I'm going to check my chicken. If this is your first time doing whole chicken, you need to make sure that you are able to take its temperature in a couple different spots. I like to first check in the leg near the bone. I also like to check the breast and another random spot. You want at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit for it to be food safe. Be sure, nobody wants medium rare chicken. It passes the temperature test, so out of the oven it comes. It's going to rest for about 10 minutes or a little bit more if you have time before you cut into it, because you want as many of those juices to get into the breast as possible. We're going to remove it over to a serving platter while it rests, and we'll move all those potatoes as well, because now we are going to make a pan gravy. We're going to use that same roasting pan that it was roasting in. And if you don't have enough drippings to get a real good gravy, go ahead and add either chicken broth if you have it, or if you don't, you can use the powdered chicken bouillon right there, broth base, and there's directions on the side as to how much to add to water. So that's what I had on hand today. So we're going to add it in, and we're going to use a wire whisk to bring all of those good roasty toasty bits on the bottom up to the top and break them up into very small pieces. And we've got the burner on, so we're cooking this. It's not just setting there. And we're going to bring it up to a boil. While it is heating up, I'm going to get my cornstarch and some milk. Now, I'm going to be using 3 tablespoons of cornstarch and 2 cups of milk. And my broth is plenty salty enough. I do not need to add any more salt to it. So I'm basically just going to stir cold milk and cornstarch together. If you put the cornstarch right into the hot liquid, it's going to clump up like crazy. So mix it with a cold liquid. Milk is great. If you don't want it to be cream-based, you can use water or you can use chicken stock. That's absolutely fine. You want that broth boiling before you add that cold milk into it. And you want to stir as you're pouring it in. Otherwise, like I said, it'll definitely clump up. You want to keep gently stirring it as it thickens. If it thickens too much, you can absolutely add some more cool liquid to start to thin it out, and just keep stirring. If it's too thin, you can add more cornstarch and a cold liquid and stir it in to make it thicker. Just kind of play with it. Always make sure you taste test it before you put everything into platters and serve it. And there you have it, a beautiful dinner to impress your family, your in-laws, or just to make on a Sunday evening. All the old standbys are there, and if you're feeling really fancy, you can add some fresh baked bread. If you don't know how to bake bread, you can check for another video I have. I've got a beautiful bread recipe. Wait! Don't just dump that chicken carcass you worked so hard to roast. Let me teach you how to make some bone broth. We're going to start by adding in all of the chicken carcass, including the fat and skin that you have left. Now, go ahead and pick off any extra meat. You're going to save that for soup or tacos or whatever you want. But we're going to add all of those bones and fat and cartilage into your crock pot. You probably won't need any extra salt, but if you want to add a teaspoon or so, that would be fine. If you have scraps of veggies like celery and carrots, go ahead and add them in too. We're going to turn this on with a nice full pot of water in there and cook it overnight. Then you just simply strain it out, and you can use it for soup, you can use it for broth, or if you're interested in learning how to can, check out some of my other videos.